Well, the New York Times has published a report so bad, Netanyahu is threatening to sue. This is what he said. Today, I instructed my legal advisors to consider the harshest legal action against the New York Times and Nicholas Kristof. They defamed the soldiers of Israel and perpetuated a blood libel about rape, trying to create a false symmetry between the genocidal terrorists of Hamas and Israel's valiant soldiers. Under my leadership, Israel will not be silent. We will fight these lies in the court of public opinion and in the court of law. Truth will prevail. Well, you've already lost in the court of public opinion, I could tell you that. The report is quite graphic. So viewer discretion, be advised that I'm going to read some from this article, some of the reporting, and it is pretty graphic. It's pretty terrible. And it's actually very surprising that the New York Times actually published this. What's not surprising is, of course, the Wall Street Journal, then to counter this, published a whole piece on how terrible Hamas is and the rapes of Hamas. So when one publishes about the Israelis, they have to make it equal and publish about Hamas. But this is what's in this particular story. It's called The Silence That Meets the Rape of Palestinians. Male and female Palestinians describe brutal sexual abuse at the hands of Israel's prison guards, soldiers, settlers, and interrogators, by Nicholas Kristof. And basically what Kristof says is he spoke with 14 Palestinian men and women who described being sexually assaulted by Israeli settlers or members of Israel's security forces. The article does not claim that Israeli leaders ordered any rapes directly, but Kristof argues that they did build a system where sexual violence has become one of Israel's standard operating procedures. So they're not directly ordering it, but they know what's happening, turning a blind eye, and almost expecting it to happen. Now, one of the most horrifying accounts comes from a man named Sami Al-Sai. He's a 46-year-old freelance journalist, and he says that after he was detained in 2024, guards threw him to the ground, beat him, stepped on his head and neck, pulled down his pants and boxers, and tried to force a rubber baton into his rectum. He said the guards were laughing. Then someone said, "Give me the carrots," and they assaulted him with a carrot. He said the pain was so extreme, he was praying for death. He was blindfolded, but he understood Hebrew and heard someone say, "Don't take photos," which made him believe someone had pulled out a camera. He also said a female guard grabbed his penis and testicles and joked, "These are mine," and squeezed them until he screamed. And afterward, he was left handcuffed on the ground while the guards took a smoking break. And when he was dumped into a cell, he found other people's vomit, blood, and broken teeth crushed into his skin. The article also describes an unnamed Palestinian farmer who says he was raped 3 times in one day with a metal baton. He says a half dozen guards held him down, pulled down his pants and underwear, and inserted the baton into his anus while laughing and cheering. Later, after he fainted and woke up in the prison clinic, he says they raped him again. He said he was bleeding and crying. And when he asked for pen and paper to file a complaint, guards came back that evening, beat him, raped him a 3rd time, and one allegedly told him, "Now you have even more to put in your complaint." It goes on to include accounts from Palestinian women. One woman arrested at 23 years old says soldiers threatened to rape her, her mother, and her young niece. She says male and female guards repeatedly came into her cell, stripped her naked, handcuffed her, bent her over, sometimes pushed her head into the toilet, beat her and groped her. She said, "I don't know if they raped me," because she sometimes lost consciousness. Her description is very chilling. She says, at the beginning of each shift, they would bring the guys to strip me. When she was released, she says officials threatened to rape her, and kill her father if she spoke about it. He goes on to talk about Euromed, a report about a 42-year-old woman who said she was shackled naked to a metal table while Israeli soldiers raped her over 2 days and filmed it. She said they later showed her photos of the rape and threatened to publish them if she did not cooperate with Israeli intelligence. So And that's very humiliating for a woman. So she's raped, they film it, and then they say, we'll expose this, even though obviously it's not her fault. And really they're exposing their own crimes, but it definitely has a powerful impact. Some of the worst allegations come from the Gaza detainees. One Gaza journalist told Christoph no one escaped sexual assaults. He said guards zip-tied his penis and testicle for hours while beating his genitals. And afterward, he urinated blood for days. In another incident, he says he was stripped naked, blindfolded, handcuffed, and held down while a dog was brought in. He says the handler encouraged the dog in Hebrew. The dog mounted him, and the guards took photos while laughing. And he says he tried to dislodge the dog, but it penetrated him. And while he was released, he says an Israeli official warned him, if you want to stay alive when you return, do not speak to the media. The article also talks about children. Christoph, the writer of this article, says he interviewed 3 Palestinian boys who had been detained. All 3 described sexual abuse. One boy who was 15 when arrested said rape threats were routine. Guards would say things like, do this or we'll put this stick up your butt. The other boys described sexual violence during beatings and said rape threats were also directed at their mothers and siblings. And this wasn't just in prisons. Christoph's article goes on to talk about violence with settlers as well. He says that in the Jordan Valley, he met Suhaib Abu Kibash, a 29-year-old Bedouin farmer who said about 20 settlers rampaged through his family's homes, beat adults and children, stole jewelry and 400 sheep, then cut off his clothes with a hunting knife, zip-tied his penis tightly and yanked on it. And he said, I was afraid they would cut off my penis. I thought this was the end for me. Another Palestinian official, Mohammed Matar, said settlers stripped him, beat him, poked him in the buttocks with a stick, talked about raping him, and posted a photo online of him blindfolded and stripped to his underwear. So pretty horrific allegations coming from this article. And it's not just this article. We've seen other UN reports talking about the same thing. There have been other reports documenting this. But Netanyahu has decided that this was it for him, and he's now threatening to sue the New York Times.